Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the IDP Underground on the FFAN Grindhouse Channel. Glad that intro kind of had some oomph to it and got me a little pumped up. This is like the fourth
Yeah.
or fifth. I think I've had out of 5 weeks. I think I've had one Monday night where I was like, I've got something to play for. Most of them it was like everything's been decided. I think I have one matchup today that's close. I need a dud from Travis Kelce and a blow up game from BTJ. But before we get into that, welcome into IDP Underground. I am Aaron St Denis. Follow me everywhere at FF Mad Scientist. That's Matt Montgomery, although he apparently can't spell his own last name. So he's Matt Monty FF. How's it going, Matt?
What is up, man? How are you doing this week? It is a beautiful Monday. I need a Trevor Lawrence big game tonight. That is what I need in multiple leagues. So pray that we get Clemson T-Law and not whatever this has been for the last couple of years.
I can be down with that as long as it all goes to BTJ. I need that.
Yeah.
That's that ever-present family league where I'm the only one who knows what they're talking about, and somehow I never win the league. And every week of the year, every year of the season, I go up against the highest scoring team. So it's become a running joke about how cursed I am in my own family league. I guess we'll get into some actual IDP. Anything you want to talk about? What we got tonight? Chiefs, Jags. I said anything defense worthy that you've got in mind here?
Yeah, I'm a big fan recently of Kamari Connor. He's kind of somebody that I never really gave a lot of credit to at the beginning of the season, but kind of seeing myself more and more and more in leagues, trying to getting him off of waivers because obviously defensive backs aren't something you have to just stash by any means. But Connor's been a very productive player, so I like watching him. I also enjoy anytime I can watch some Nick Bolton because he's a very polarizing player. So just kind of those types of plays. Chris Jones, he's elite for the Chiefs. On the Jags side, they're down. Are they down Walker tonight? I forget. Is Walker not playing tonight? I don't remember off the top of my head. Foyer, Devin Lloyd, great group of linebackers there. I've been wrong, and we're going to talk about Lloyd a little bit later on here.
Sorry to interrupt you, though. Trayvon Walker is, in fact, inactive. Had that, I believe he had wrist surgery. Yeah, wrist surgery 7 days ago and was unable to get in a limited practice. Not quite ready to play. Smoot and Ogba should be in line for increased reps along the D line. So no Trayvon Walker. I believe I played it safe and I took him out of my Fantasy Pros ranks altogether.
Yeah.
But he's out. I guess we'll start off with kind of the news of the day. It's not exactly a headliner, but Raiders released linebacker Jermaine Pratt saying goodbye to a veteran they signed this offseason. I'm seeing mixed reviews here on maybe it was a character issue and he wasn't a great fit. I don't know if they just didn't like his playing style. Then I see Mike Wohlert. He has tweeted out teams that could come knocking: Colts and Seahawks. What are your thoughts here on Pratt in general? And do you have a landing spot other than Colts and Seahawks, or are you pretty much in line with Mike Wohlert?
Well, despite what the get-up here is today, I am a Bengals fan at heart. And Jermaine Pratt, when he was a Cincinnati Bengal, I don't think there was ever any rumblings of character concerns. So that would shock me. However, with Tom Brady being in the ownership group, I really do believe that Mark Davis is kind of allowing him to put his imprint on the franchise. I think we've already saw it with the surprise cut of Christian Wilkins at the beginning of the season. Now you're seeing a midseason cut on the defense for Jermaine Pratt. Now, he wasn't like a world beater. It's not like he was the best linebacker on the team even, but losing somebody like that, and it was a non-injury related thing, and he didn't travel with the team, leads me to believe that there was some sort of a relationship blow up. So not to speculate, but it feels like Tom Brady's kind of instilling that old school Patriots mentality, team over the individual. So who knows? What I do know is if he were to land in Indianapolis and be that second linebacker to Zaire Franklin, that would be a wonderful landing spot, not only for Franklin, but for Pratt. So as of right now, I think Pratt, you got to hold on to him because I do think he's going to land on his feet somewhere, but it's a red flag for sure that he got cut, basically, as opposed to being injured and having to leave.
I don't have an inside source here, but everything I've seen, I kind of get that feeling too. This felt like a Detroit Lions situation years back with Big Play Slay, where they moved on from him, and it wasn't a talent. It was more of he was kind of a self-centered ass and didn't fit with their team game. And that's kind of the vibe I get here. Don't quote me on it. I have no inside source, but I'm still very high on the talent. So I certainly hope he gets another chance. I've got some snap counts here to go through before we get into your Uber IDP tweet. Cowboys here. Jack Sanborn left the game in the second quarter with a concussion, replaced by Shamar James, who ended up leading the team in tackles. And I believe that answers my next question. The first question we have here, IDP waiver targets. That was going to be the guy I said, Shamar James. If the concussion lingers here for Sanborn, Kenneth Murray has been out-tackled by his LB2 4 straight weeks despite leading the team in snaps. So Shamar James seen 72.8% of snaps. That's even though Sanborn started the game and played 19.8. So James was pretty much 100% snap share after Bourne went out. What are your thoughts? Sanborn went out. What are your thoughts here on the Dallas linebacker room?
Well, I think right now we're just in a waiting game until DeMarvion Overshown can return to the field because he was a dominant force on the field. And then I believe was Kenneth Murray is going to be the second guy there. So right now we're kind of fighting over who's going to get the scraps. And I think that James right now, he's a guy that I am targeting this week 100% because if you got an inside linebacker in a Dallas Cowboys type of a defense, you're going to get tackles. I mean, they've never – since the Sean Lee days, they have failed to have – or not failed, but they've always had somebody who was an elite linebacker one type of a player, whether it was Vander Esch or – I mean, the myriad of guys in between. I think Jalen Brooks, I want to say. I don't know off the top of my head. But – just trust me here. These guys are going to be good when they're in that system. That's why Sanborn was such a pickup at the beginning of the year because we knew that there was going to be opportunity for him to play early, and we saw what he could do in Chicago in limited time. The concussion is starting to rack up a lot on him. He's getting just nicked up injury-wise. It's not like devastating season-ending injuries, but he's constantly in that medical center, constantly kind of off the field. And that makes me a bit nervous for him long-term. I already wasn't a huge buyer on him for the long-term because I think, like you've heard before, I'm an Overshown guy, but he's always had value. I don't know much about Shamar James other than he got the opportunity and he produced immediately. And I think in that case, with IDP leagues, especially in deep leagues, you have to chase that production when it's this late into the season on waivers. You never know when you're going to need an extra linebacker.
Got an IDP waiver target for the boogeyman here. As I said, Shamar James was actually, I think might have been my top one overall. Might have just been my top linebacker, but he was the one who came to mind. You got anyone who really jumped out this week?
I'm eyeballing TJ Slayton in Cincy. Interior defensive linemen don't get a lot of love, and it's because most of them are kind of just bottom of the barrel points, and you just got to have a starter in certain leagues. But with TJ Slayton, what we are seeing is a player ascend into a new role. He's 27 years old, so he's not necessarily young, but he's not old enough for us to start giving up on him. At the beginning of the year, he was playing less than 50% of the snaps, but last week he played the most snaps at the position and had 81% of the snaps. He's already got, 21 tackles. He's had 12 tackles in just the last 2 games. We're really starting to see him get playing time. I think he has usurped that role. I think he is going to be in that role. And as we've seen so far this season, the Bengals are going to be trailing often. When they're trailing, these teams are going to want to try to get out of Cincinnati with a win. And they will do that by speeding the game up and running the clock. And if they're going to run the ball, if you have an interior defensive lineman that is showing that he can stop the run, if anything in IDP, he is going to have a high ceiling because we're seeing him get in on these run-stopping plays. And unfortunately for a Bengals fan, there's going to be a lot of runs against the Bengals unless they can figure something out. Maybe in a trade for a quarterback, starting to hear some rumblings. Zach Taylor didn't necessarily give Jake Browning a rousing endorsement this week at the press conference when asked if he would play against Green Bay. Wouldn't shock me if they made a move, but until they make a move, it's pretty much negativity city in Cincinnati.
I think we answered this one. You said it was what, Chamari Connor? My favorite one tonight is always Foye. He has a special place in my heart. When I first got into IDP, it was like your home league IDPs where it was like start 1, start 2, not really IDP. Oh, yeah. And it was always, you got everyone drafting the JJ Watts and the Richard Shermans, the Sauce Gardners, the big name guys. in like round 5, round 6, when they start to, you see a run on it. And I just waited and I'm picking, last round, I guess I'll just take a Luakon. So the name nobody knew. I mean, now if you're an IDP guy, everybody knows who he is, but I always have a special place in my heart for him. So that's who I want to see. We'll move on here to the Colts. This was a blowout. So Zaire Franklin didn't play in garbage time, but was 100% snap share before he got the rest treatment. Austin Ajaki, I don't know if I'm not even pretending I know how to say that, played 38% prior to garbage time and then 100% in garbage time. I have him as a deep league stash kind of candidate for the waiver column. I don't think you're going to get this out of Indy every week, and it's Zaire Franklin here. Any concerns here that Ajiaki could be eating into Zaire Franklin, or is this just a garbage time scenario?
So I covered the Indianapolis Colts for Football Guys during training camp, and one of my first articles of training camp was about how the linebacker 2 spot really wasn't secured by Jalen Carlisle, like we all kind of thought at the beginning of the season. And one of the guys I brought up was Ajiaki, but it was more so look, this guy is turning heads early in camp. Never heard the guy's name, but we should probably keep an eye on him. Nothing really tremendous has happened since then, but we are seeing him get to play in those garbage roles. And the Colts I've been on the good end of these roles for once. So now they're actually getting to see some young players play with leads, playing in exciting spots in different roles, and resting some of their older players. So we're seeing him. He's good enough that the coaches continue to give him playing time. Okay. And in IDP, sometimes that's the tiebreaker. As far as me being afraid he's going to take Zaire Franklin's role, I understand that Franklin is having a horrible season as far as where everybody kind of projected him to be. I think that would be the one where I would slap somebody in the face and be like, dude, quit overthinking this. It's Zaire Franklin. He'll be fine. Maybe he's not IDP number 1 like maybe many thought he could be, but he's still going to be a quality linebacker in your lineup, even if it's now a depth role and you didn't draft him for that.
Ajiaki. I love defensive players. I have a theory that when these defensive players showed up for high school football, or they all showed up for high school football, the coach looked at the players whose names they couldn't pronounce and said, fuck it, you're on defense. Because I can't pronounce anyone's name on defense. I mean, I got Zaire Franklin, but like half these names, I always struggle with. This is the hardest part for me of IDP fantasy football.
It's tough.
Struggling through some of the names. It's like
I was trying to say Dadrian Taylor Demerson on a video today for about 10 minutes, just trying to say it fast, and I couldn't do it.
It's like watching the Key and Peele skit with the DeBrickashaw Ferguson and the whatever the hell it is. I don't know half these names. Move on to Cincy.
Torque Lewis.
Yeah. Jesus. After 2 weeks of shenanigans with Logan Wilson he stayed on for every down this week. Also, despite Demetrius Knight racking up 8 tackles, his usage didn't improve, and he's just a deep league option. What are your thoughts here? Logan Wilson's obviously the guy to have in the Cincy linebacker room. Demetrius Knight, just a desperation play for you. Any interest?
Yeah, right now he's like a desperation play, maybe a flex if you're in leagues that offer flex plays. He's not – if you were comparing him on the rookie linebacker scale, Carson Schweschinger is kind of the mark, and Carson Schweschinger to me is an every week type of a starter. Once you get outside of there, if you don't have a rookie linebacker that's like kind of the no doubt green dot, he's going to be on the field all the time, I always kind of keep those guys stashed until they get a role. Say – like taxi squads, like Dayon Henley, for example, is a very good person to kind of talk about here because for a while, he wasn't having these gigantic weeks. He was having good weeks, but he wasn't having these weeks that were like stopping the clock. I have to start him every time. Now he's that guy, but you have to have patience for players. We just have this microwave society right now when it comes to fantasy football that if you're not good in your first 4 weeks, you must be bad at football. And I just don't think we understand the level of competitiveness and the difference between college and the NFL, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally. I mean, you're a paid employee now. Dude. So these guys sometimes take time, and I think we have to give Demetrius Knight time. So desperation flex for me.
But you couldn't be more right. I'm working on a multi-year. It's up to 5 years of data based on the offense and defensive rookies and their value as a rookie in redraft. And you're so right. We got a few years of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. a couple of tight ends who hit right off the bat, a CJ Stroud who hit here and there. And now we get to the point. Remember, it was, I don't want to draft a rookie tight end in redraft. They're not good for 3 or 4 years. Now we drop them if they're not tight end 1 by week 3. And it's crazy how in a few years the swings happen.
Yeah,
but that's
absolutely. Think about how many people gave up on Mason Taylor at the beginning of the year. Now look at what we're seeing.
But that's why I said I stopped drafting rookies of either type in redraft, offense or defense, because these guys like Justin Jefferson, the year he hit as a rookie, he was going in like the 12th round, the 9th round. You got guys now like Marvin Harrison Jr. last year going in the 2nd round. Even if he hits, you're Ashton Jenkins.
You're saying he's
drafting him at his ceiling.
Potentially at that year, he's a top 25 player. First 2 rounds, you're picking him, he will finish in the top 25, or it's a bust pick.
Yeah, it's a bust. Okay, so we got Hingle McCringleberry, Javaris and Lamar, Donkey Teeth, Tyrell Smoochie Wallace, and Desquarius Green Jr. Thank you, Boogie, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. Let's see. We've got the last one here I think I want to get into before we get into yours is the Baltimore situation. Obviously, Roquan was out. Not sure. He's not on IR. He's just out. Teddy Buchanan I always feel like I'm mispronouncing it. It's Teddy, right? Even though it's got an E at the end. Teddy.
I've been calling him Teddy, but I
think it is too.
Correct myself.
He did indeed get an every down role with Roquan out as we expected and led the team with 15 tackles this week. He's a locked in linebacker too, even with Roquan back. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think he's definitely a high end LB2 with Roquan out. When Roquan gets back, I think he's more on the 2-3 borderline. What do you think for Teddy with an E? Well, 2 E's, I guess.
So Roquan's he's going to cannibalize that position. The people that are going to get tackles are the ones that Roquan just couldn't quite get to. That's kind of how I feel like that. It's not going to be because they beat him to the punch. It's because he either allowed them to or just wasn't in the play. So anytime you have another guy next to somebody like that, they're not going to be an every week starter unless you need their help, but they're not going to be bad plays. So maybe you have a better matchup with another guy. Maybe you can find somebody on waivers who has a more clearly defined role. We see it change weekly almost in IDP. I mean, how many guys we're talking about Teddy Buchanan at the beginning of the season, and now we're talking about how he had 15 tackles and he could be an every week start. So this is a week-to-week league. A rookie linebacker, though, in Dynasty, even if he's not a week-to-week player, you got to stash him. You've seen the ceiling, or at least a potential ceiling, maybe not an outlier. So he's got to have a spot on your bench, especially at linebacker. It's the running backs of the defense. If you can have 10 of them and it's not an ugly sight on your lineup in IDP, but if you don't have them, you will not win the league. So players like him, maybe not every week, but I'm keeping him because I do think that there's a diamond there.
All right, we're going to get into your thread over on his X at Matt Monty FF if you need to follow along. We're going to start off with one of my favorite all times up there with Foyer. I love Nick Benito and Andrew Van Ginkel. They always seem to be the underrated guys that I'm not talking your expert IDP leagues. I'm talking my home, my work leagues, the guys who are just diving into IDP. When all the big names go early, I get these guys late and I just love it. Starting with an L here. I see you've kind of turned this into an accountability post. So we're going to see how you did this week.
I want to clarify that. So this week, because you know what? This was not near as fun as just talking mad stuff. I hate the fact
we're here today. Consider me the police to give this motherfucker some receipts. Call fantasy receipts on you. Okay, starting with an L here. I wrote an article this offseason about how I would avoid Nick Benito. God, shame on you for saying those words. And I may be wrong as I've ever been. Through 5 games, he has 7 sacks, including 2.5 last week alone. He's on a tear, and I refuse to ignore it anymore. I said earlier in these threads that the Rams' Byron Young is the next big thing at edge, but Benito may make me eat my words. God, I hope so. I love me some Benito. What changed for you? Just the outright production, the role? What is it?
So, I attached, for those that can't see it, I attached a little write-up.
Oh, yeah, I didn't zoom in on that.
In the preseason. No, you're fine. I attached one of my write-ups for the preseason about why I felt that way. And part of it was because the way that they attacked the offseason in Denver. They just added significant pieces and significant amounts of people onto that defense. To me, at the time, it signaled a lack of trust in the people that they had there. So I felt as though the people that they have there are going to have a small runway. You're either going to excel early on and they're going to keep you on, or Peyton is going to move on. That is the type of guy he is. And we saw him do that on the offense the first year. The first year was an offense year. Well, the guy that everybody said couldn't be cut because of his cap hit was cut because it did not matter to Sean Payton. I want him out. This is not how I'm building the team. I believe this season it was the defense in the offseason. So I was under the impression that Benito might be a casualty. I don't think he's got the juice, Aaron. I don't think he can do it. And what does he do? 5 weeks in, he gives me a middle finger right to the face and says, dude, I've been doing this. I can continue to do this. And I don't care what you say to the dozens of people that watch you on these ridiculous little shows.
Dozens. You're overestimating my audience. Now, the question of the day from Boogeyman: has Benito gone up your rankings enough to trade him for Hingle McCringleberry? Hell no. Don't ever trade any. Keep that McCringleberry. All right. On to some serious shit here. Next up, I was very right on late Nate Landman. And God, I don't know how many times I'm going to click on Sleeper and see him in that Rams jersey and be like, no Falcons jersey? It just doesn't feel right. Preseason, I wrote about how he had a realistic 120 to 130 tackle floor. So far, he is pacing for 130 plus and has had some monster games. On Sunday, he had 14 tackles with 3 passes defended to boot. He's been as good as we could have hoped for a player stepping into a starting role on a new team. Landman to the moon. It's the new team that gets me. I love Landman, and then I'm just like, oh, new team. I hate new teams. Yeah. It's like wide receivers. I hate wide receivers switching teams. I don't mind it so much if it's an IDP player, specifically a linebacker, more specifically one with a green dot. I don't mind it, but I hate players changing new teams for fantasy. Sorry, what are your thoughts on Landman?
No, you're good. I'm the same way typically, and this is actually a little bit out of left field for me, but it's one that I feel as though I've hit out the park so far. If we can stay healthy, this might be my, not maybe to the Zach Bond levels. I had a really good Zach Bond one at the beginning of the year and then proceeded to not win in any league. So, that was kind of my one win of the year. But with this one in particular, it feels good because my understanding for this situation was that Sean McVay didn't necessarily have a no doubt guy ever since Bobby Wagner left. And I think that was an important cog in their defense when they were successful at their highest level. They had players like Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner back there to really secure not only the physical side, because those dudes are animals, but the mental side of the game and the leadership side. They're young right now, but they're not bad young. They're young and talented, and they don't really have anybody with leadership. So the fact that he had a couple of years under his belt in Atlanta that wasn't the most, that wasn't any star-studded event, going there with that veteran leadership has probably proven valuable to them. And the fact that we're seeing the production and the level that defense has played so far, a little bit up and down with pass rush versus last year when they kind of had the IDP all-star team on their defensive line. But overall, as a defensive unit, I like what they're doing a lot more now. And I also love the fact that Landman is producing at such a high level.
All righty, let's move on. This one isn't as painful. Oh, that's a good start. But I had extremely high hopes for linebacker Trevin Wallace of the Panthers, but the performances have been very mid. While having depth at linebacker position is important in IDP, I did not have Wallace as a depth guy. I said that Christian Roseboom would be the depth at line. See, I felt the exact opposite. I had Roseboom as the guy with Wallace as the depth, that linebacker there. But it appears Wallace is in that role. Haha, victory lap for me. Hard pill to swallow. Sorry, I'm a very gracious winner. Just don't mind me.
Oh, don't worry, dude. I'm a sore winner too.
Hard pill to swallow, but I'm not 100% sold yet that Wallace can't be a contributing player for your team. I find that this is one of the situations where I don't think either of us is right. I think it's Roseboom right now, but I think it's more of this isn't just one of those teams where it's one guy. I think it's multiple guys getting a lot of the work, splitting it. So I don't think you're 100% wrong. I don't think I'm 100% right. I think this is like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery backfield, except with not as much talent, not as much talent here where they're splitting
Right.
touches. So, what do you
Right.
think here of Roseboom and what did I say? Oh, Wallace. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's very much ride the hot hand, and that is not how I touted him this offseason. He was kind of the guy that I was like, all right, he's the next guy that's going to take. He's going to be your Zach Bond this year, and he's just not. He's not a bad linebacker, but he's not moving the needle. And I think a lot of times what loses fantasy leagues, it's a lot easier to prevent losing your league than it is to actually win it. So preventing losing of the league is just by saying, hey, I was wrong. This guy's not that guy. Relegate him to the bench, reevaluate the situation, put in players that are proving production, whether that is with higher and more stable snap counts, whether it's more production on the field, or whether it's a big play opportunity versus other stuff. Regardless of why, Wallace is just not that guy this year, and I'm bummed because I thought that this was going to be the second-year breakout, another inside linebacker to add to the Luke Kuechly lore with that team.
I agree with this. I had this problem when I was writing up my green dot article where it's like, okay, Roseboom Ward here last year, but he's on this team now. And the team he's on now, this guy's here. And it's like, would they just play
So
musical
hard.
chairs this offseason on green dot linebackers?
Dude, honestly, for anybody that maybe hasn't played IDP and is for somehow stumbled onto this, the hardest part of playing IDP is just figuring out where everybody's at. If you can get that down, you're up on 70% of your league. I promise you that.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, here's another one that I seen the other day looking up an article and it felt so weird. I was right on safety Talanoa Hufanga, who is having a dynamic start to the season on his new team, Denver. It feels so weird. I just felt like he was a 49er for life. With
Yeah, me
35
too.
tackles through 5 games, Hufanga is pacing for over 110 tackles this season. When it comes to DBs, you have to get to the tackle volume guys over the pop play guys, depending on league settings. But in general, yes. Hufanga is the type of player who can do both. He also has 3 defended passes and a forced fumble on the young season and is showing us stability at a position that rarely provides you with it. I also find that everybody is just doing their best to avoid Patrick Surtain. So everyone else in that secondary gets far more chances because they're like, we ain't fucking with that guy. I mean, Surtain
Yep.
did get burned yesterday by who'd they have yesterday?
Oh, I know what you're talking about because I was watching this highlight.
He got burned by someone, and I was like, does that Surtain got
It
burned?
was Phil. Was it Philly they
Yeah,
played? Was it
did AJB
Devontae
burn him?
Smith or was it
No,
AJB?
Devontae Smith burned him. That's what it was.
I thought it
And I
was
was like,
okay.
he burned Surtain there, but yeah. So I think they just funnel
Heisman
away
guy.
from for Surtain, so everyone else in that secondary has increased opportunities. So, what are your thoughts here?
Yes. Well, I've loved Hufanga for a while. He stole my heart completely the Monday Night Football game where he had a pick six because he won a matchup for me, and I've been hooked ever since. Whether you want to compare him to Palomalu because of his hair or his play style, regardless, the comp is not too far off because he plays at a very high level. He's very, very much he's like the Russell Westbrook of safeties. The motor just never stops moving. He is the Energizer Bunny on the field. And we see that in his play with the high volume tackle numbers. Unfortunately, he's got some injury volatility because of the style of play he has. So we have seen him get nicked up and miss games. But he plays at such a high level that when he is in the game, he is a no doubt starter each week, and he should be treated as one. I think right now, Denver's still learning about their team, and I think the defense is a bit less. It's a bit underwhelming compared to what everybody hyped it up to be, myself included, for this season. We forget that we're only in the first week of October. These teams don't even know each other yet. They don't know what's going on. Rookies are still learning the playbook. New members of staff are still trying to figure out what their role is. This will get better, and we have seen him already have a great amount of success. With the team chemistry getting better as well, putting him in better positions to make plays on the ball, we will see these improve in the weeks that we need it to happen, those double-digit weeks, weeks 10 through 16, 17, or 18, depending on your league settings. I've got stuff going on every week at that time of the year. But regardless, he is still that guy in a different uniform to continue the trend of the show so far.
I think, yeah, no shit. I think Denver's defense hasn't looked as good because, you got to look at Philly in the first 5 weeks. They got Philly, the Chargers, and Colts. That's what 3-3-1 teams. Their
Yeah,
schedule has been
tough.
tougher. Nobody,
It's tough.
everyone knew Philly was going to be tough. People probably suspected the Chargers. I guess the Bengals were a letdown. Tennessee hasn't been very good, but I don't think Indy was.
I tell you, I live in Indy, and even Indy didn't think this was going to happen.
Well, that's what
can
I
assure
mean.
you.
So I think as the schedule gets easier, he's going to produce more, and that defense is going to look better. I said it last week, but I have been such a hater that I'll say it again. Edge Brian Burns is one of the best in IDP right now, despite his first real quiet game of the year against the Saints Sunday. He's got 23 tackles and 5 sacks through 5 games, has a real shot to have career highs in both tackles, sacks this season, pacing currently to eclipse both marks. Here's an excerpt of what you said earlier. The irony of this is, on paper, garbage quarterback, garbage offense, the Saints appeared to be the best matchup. How this turned out to be his worst game of the year, I have no idea, because I just thought, you know what I think part of the problem is? He didn't get any chances to tee off on Rattler, because Rattler throws the ball 4 yards downfield, unless it's that one bomb to Shaheed. There just weren't any chances. He runs the ball quickly. He is, what did I say? He is dollar store version of Justin Fields. He doesn't pass as well, which is scary, and he doesn't run as much, which is scary. He's Anthony Richardson with less of an arm. He less legs too. Like, he'll run for 20 to 30. He's like a game manager. He doesn't really turn the ball over. He just gets it out so damn quick because he can't throw more than 15 yards. So it's like Drew Brees, who was my favorite player. It's like Brees in his last few years. Everything was, they called Michael Thomas the slant man, but that's all Drew Brees could throw at that point in his career.
Yeah, he was cooked.
What do you think,
sadly, I don't think Drew Brees can throw with his right arm anymore. I think I read an article that he plays catch with his kids and he has to use his left arm because it's just
I've watched his podcast, and this is true.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you. So back to Brian Burns. Look, he's great. I'm going to just eat it. I was wrong. When he was in Carolina, I was not this guy. I was very much pro New York move when he got the opportunity to kind of go, make the money, get the bag. At the time, we had kind of hopes for New York. I mean, do we really ever have hopes for the Giants without a Manning at quarterback? But
not since Strahan was there.
Yeah, right, exactly. So this just hasn't really – the team for me and him getting paid was an opportunity for him to go be the man somewhere and to take on that next – I'm the next edge rushing guy. And it seems to have just been a slow start to his career, or I could just be a hater. I just don't like volatility so much. And Brian Burns is a very volatile player. He's somebody that for a while he wasn't getting the tackle numbers to match the sack numbers. The sack numbers were great. The tackle numbers were like 2 or 8 or 0 or 1, and he would sprinkle in 8 to 10 sacks in those weeks. The problem I have with that is if he's your number 1 defensive lineman, if he's like the first guy you had and your second guy is a little bit sketchy, a lot of times you're going to be left holding the bomb like another Looney Tunes reference. You're holding the bomb and it explodes in your face and it just gets all messed up and the hair's everywhere because Brian Burns burned you. He's not done that this year. He's been incredible. I was wrong. He still has value. I think he's another one of those guys that could go reach up and grab that I'm the next guy mantle, like what we were talking about with Benito earlier.
Take it. Don't be so hard on yourself there. I'm looking at his stats. He's been great through 4 weeks, but he's had 6, 3, 6, 5 tackles through 4 weeks. And he was largely being buoyed by sack production. 2 sacks, 1 sack, 1 sack, 1 sack. The first week, this week, where he didn't have a sack, he had 3 tackles. But even if he has 5 tackles, he's still a 10-point player. So he's a 20 to 30-point player as long as the sack production keeps going. But I don't see him as a sack per game level player. Do you? Which makes him volatile.
If Thibodeau can reach his ceiling as a player, he will be a great person to have in that defense because he will be the second option on that defense. And I think if he is schemed against as a second option, it gives him more opportunity to be one-on-one against quarterbacks. Yeah, he will be good. If Thibodeau is bad and he's going to be relied upon to be the number 1, I don't think he's the type of player to beat double coverage or double blocking.
When do you think Roquan is back? This one is an interesting question for me. I think the answer should be Roquan will be back in week 6. The problem is it's a lingering hamstring issue and they have a bye week 7. So if he's not 100% ready to go, I think it's plausible they just give him the extra week, say take your bye week, we'll see you in week 8 here. What are your thoughts?
I think they could punt until he gets back after the bye week and see where they're at. This is unfamiliar territory for the Baltimore Ravens. They're a very well-run organization. They're a very good coach team. They are a standard in the NFL, and they have just been wiped out by not an injury bug. This is like an injury plague of locusts coming at them, and it's
How it
just
was for the
wiped.
Lions last year.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're seeing is how are they going to react? This is now a really good testament, a good test, really, for John Harbaugh. Are you one of the elite coaches? How do you manage this level of chaos? This is not something you have as something to grab on. Like, okay, well, when this happens, I do this. He's going to learn on the fly. And I think one thing that they're going to do, especially when they're wiped out this badly, is not rush their best players back to the field. I bet he's gone past the bye week, and maybe we see him week 8 because I'm kind of with you. There's no need to rush back right now. They're hurting everywhere,
Especially if Lamar's out.
Yeah, if Lamar's out, there's no point.
Yeah, they're going to suck. Cooper Rush ain't it. This actually ties in perfectly to your next post. I was very right on rookie linebacker Teddy Buchanan as a player to pick up in the absence of stud Roquan Smith, and he delivered big time this week. 15 total tackles, made it seem like Smith was still in your lineup. Well, I do think he will be relegated to the bench once again when Smith is back. I think that goes without saying. I don't know if it's necessarily relegated altogether to the bench, but it's going to be a limited share here. I do believe he showed us enough to stave off Trenton Simpson as the other linebacker in Baltimore. And I think we briefly discussed that earlier with the snap share here. I agree. Roquan's still the guy. I think what you said is correct. I don't think Buchanan will cut into Roquan snaps. I think him and Simpson are going to start sharing snaps when Roquan comes back. That is not what I want to hear for if I have any leagues with Simpson. It's not bad for Buchanan. I think there's a potential here. I don't know how old I do. Roquan's 28 in his 8th year, so he ain't getting any younger. Thoughts?
Well, for starters, I think Roquan's probably got 8 more years left. We're starting to see these guys play into their mid-30s. I mean, we got I think 2 or 3 in the league right now that are still producing at a very high level, and they're past 34 years old.
Oh my God, who's the one I seen? Oh, the next guy in I was writing it up in my waiver column, and the next guy you write about, we'll get to him. I was going, he's 35 years old. Sorry to interrupt you. Go back to that.
Yeah, no, you're good. So Teddy Buchanan has. It's just like the tweet is worded. I think he's done enough to stave off Trenton Simpson. This is still Roquan's group. He's just going to have a better role, and I think we're going to see that he's probably going to have a more clearly defined role when Roquan comes back because we're seeing him do pretty extraordinary things as a rookie, things that we've not seen Trenton Simpson do at all in his career. This is Teddy Simpson's, 4th game? So it's funny when we do this exercise because I'll go back and I'll read these tweets, and I'm like, God, I hate how I worded that. And then I'm just sitting like, man, I should have done this, that, and the other. But I think I want to go back to the relegated to the bench part of this. Bench as in like IDP bench.
Yeah.
Like not the Ravens bench. I think he's done enough to play significant snaps there. I just am worried that kind of like what I said earlier about Roquan, he's just going to cannibalize back there. So you're never going to know. And I would much rather have a Kyle Hamilton than a Teddy Buchanan in that sort of situation when they're at different levels of the field.
I always like to kind of relate this back to offense. Because if we have newer viewers, a lot of them are more comfortable with offense. So I kind of think of this as a situation of, say, Saquon Barkley missed 1 week, and Rico Dowdle came in and did what he did this week. When Saquon's coming back, it's, you're not cutting into Saquon's work, but you're now splitting carries with whoever RB2 is over there. That's what this is. Roquan's the Hall of Famer. He's the stud here. He's going to be the LB1. Simpson and Buchanan are the ones who are going to split up time a little. Next up is the guy I was talking about who is 35 years old. Linebacker Demario Davis is a player who through the last 3 years, I've told people he is aging out and to move away from. I'm a Saints fan, and he's been aging for 8 years, and it's been on a decline. Only for him to repeatedly make me look like I don't know what the game is. That's pretty much every day for me. He put up another top 15 performance in IDP this week with 10 tackles and a forced fumble. All right, maybe I was wrong, but he's 36. He's 36. Okay. I should get a tie break because he's defying age. That's happening a lot more these days. Davis needs to be a set it and forget player until he tells us he's done with football. If production is at a sign of an end, he's far from it. Yeah, this is another one where I kind of compared these to Stephon Diggs last night. If you had tried to convince me before the game that Stephon Diggs was not old and washed, I would have laughed in your face. Apparently, Stephon Diggs is telling us otherwise. So I agree with you here. I'm going to continue to just put Demario Davis in my lineup, but I am going to watch very carefully when he starts to give me not necessarily one bad week, but when he starts to give me extended periods of 3 and 4 weeks here where it's declining, I'm really going to take notice, and then it will be a short leash and he's going right back to the bench.
Yep. I think Demario Davis is just one of those guys I was wrong on again for no particular reason other than maybe stubbornness. It's not like he's just now putting up these numbers and like I've been so right for so long. This one, I've been kind of dragging him for 5 years. And flat out, he just won't go away. And kudos to him. That's a good thing. You don't want these players to get old and, excuse me, washed up. So very happy to see Demario Davis doing well, despite the fact that it makes me look dumb.
This is a league reference. You ever watch The League? Do you prefer Cameron Jordan or Jordan Cameron? You ever watch The League?
I've never watched The League.
Oh, go back and watch it. It's on Disney Plus. It's about fantasy football, although there's very little fantasy football in it. But they have one where the guys, he makes a waiver claim and he can't remember if he added Jordan Cameron or Cameron Jordan. It's a whole thing, and they don't play in IDP, so they don't want to tell him. They're both of the guys are there, the actual player, and they don't want to tell them, hey, did you draft me or me? And then he's like, I'm a top 10 player, and he says, I got Cameron Jordan. And he goes, oh, that's great. You playing in IDP league? And he's like, oh, no, we don't. He's like, it's Jordan Cameron, not Cameron Jordan, man. It's a good show. Go watch The League. It's a good show. All right, we'll wrap it up here with your last one. I had some sit-start questions this season that have involved safety Jalen Petrie, and I have gotten them wrong every week. I feel like I'm trying to think of who my guy is this. Oh, Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a guy like there's plenty of them, but there just seems to be those players where no matter what, I'm not going to get their sit-start question right. And for you, it's Petrie. For me, it's Justin Fields. But he had a ridiculous first year on the scene in IDP, a season where he accumulated 147 tackles and 5 picks. That was 2 years ago. And since then, he's failed to produce that number in both tackles and interceptions and all combined action. This was enough for me to write him off. But this week, he proves me wrong by having 4 tackles with 2 picks. Of course he does. Oh, but they went off on Baltimore. It was Cooper Rush, so you can't really – I wouldn't yell at yourself too bad here. His volatility scares me, but I do believe he's a good depth piece to have if you can get the sit-start right. He's one of these guys where no matter what, I'm going to sit him when he blows up, and I'm going to have him in my lineup when he puts in a dud. Yeah. It's like Darnell Mooney, Justin Fields. I get what you're saying, that you may be wrong and there is some talent here. He's not one of the guys I want to play guessing games with and have him in my lineup. Give me the just boring guy who's going to put up consistent flex play instead of this guy. I hate the players. Trey Tucker of the Raiders, 40 points, 4 points, 53 points, 8 points. No, thanks. Just give me my consistent wide receiver 3. I'm not doing this shit.
I'm out. I can't do it. Yeah, he's that type of guy. He's just going to give you weeks where it's going to be like, oh, my God, where did this guy come from? And he's going to be like, oh, my God, is this guy playing? That first year, 147 tackles and safety, that is a big number. That is not something that you can just ignore. So he's got that in his bag. If he's utilized in defenses like that, I don't think they use that type of defense anymore ever since D'Amico Ryans came around. And we've seen his production dip to the levels of more of a normal defensive back. And they just don't score a lot in Houston. So his volatility, at one point in time, he was an every week starter. But that, like I said, was 2 years ago. I mean, we're talking over 700 days ago since we saw that guy. So I've always kind of leaned with don't play him. And I kind of looked at his numbers today, and I don't feel wrong about that. But I do think I'm underselling what he can bring to your team. And that is a safe kind of a bench play that has the ability to go off if you need a gamble, if you need a dice roll. He's kind of a safety version of like Deshaun Jackson, where like you're not going to get 8 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, but you might get 2 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns because he's just kind of that one-trick pony, and that's kind of how I look at Petrie.
Okay, let's play a guessing game. I have a league set up that I use for research on Sleeper, and it has the default settings are everything you have for the Fantasy Pros accuracy contest. So it's 4 point per passing touchdown, half point PPR, no tight end premium. I don't even want to get into the IDP stats, but they're very basic. There's no like 8 points for it's very basic,
Right.
like 4 points. So it's any guess as combined of all positions, offense, defense, kicker, DST, who is the highest scoring player of the week so far in this scoring system? I'll give you a hint. He has 14 tackles and 3 pass defenses, and we've talked about him today.
14 tackles and 3
He
defensive
looks
passes.
wrong in his jersey.
Yeah, Landman.
He is the
The
33 points.
Landman.
0.1 ahead of Rico Dowdle, then Jamar Chase, who is a point behind, 3 points back for Jonathan Taylor, and 4 points back for Zach Bond and Nick Benito. So 3 of the top 6 were linebackers. 2 of them that we've talked about. Zach Bond, you don't really have to say much about him. You got him, start him.
Right.
Anything else before we get out of here? Anything you
No, I
really...
just want to say, as always, for the people that do tune into this and ask questions, shout out to Boogeyman. I appreciate it. It's awesome that we get to do this, and it's really cool to have some engagement. And we just want to help you guys win leagues, just like we're trying to win these leagues. That's the point. And there's no such thing as a fair weather fan. I love Cincinnati, but come on, how can you not ride the Colts bandwagon right now? Go Colts.
Yeah, I have this. I'm not a fair weather fan. I'm just not like I have in baseball and hockey. I'm diehard Detroit. In football, I was raised a Lions fan. Barry retired. I didn't watch football for years. Came back and I became a Saints fan because my first fantasy football team, I had Breeze and Reggie Bush and Jeremy Shockey and Marcus. It ended up all Saints.
Wow.
So I'm a Saints fan, but I'm kind of always the hometown team. So that's why I like fantasy football, because I don't have any bias. I don't have a team that I really care about. So catch us this time next week, 7:00 on Mondays. Head over to FSAN.com. I've got my IDP waiver wire column out tomorrow at 9 a.m. And Thursday at 9 a.m., I have the IDP sit start column. Thank you all for tuning in to the IDP Underground on the FFAN Grindhouse. For Aaron and Matt, we will catch you next week. Take care and have a great night.